Hey everyone, I'm Ian McCarthy of Lifting for Life and No Bullshit Bodybuilding, and tonight I'd like to talk to you about why it is I typically only do 2 working sets per exercise. And I do first want to note that this is only a generality, so there are situations in which I'll do more working sets on an exercise, and indeed sometimes I'll do just 1 working set on a given exercise. However, it is generally the case I do 2, and I'd like to expand upon why that is. First of all, I realize that most people probably don't do only 1 working set per exercise. However, if we imagine that someone does and we're discussing the increase to 2 sets per exercise, what this does is, all else being equal, it doubles a person's training volume while only actually adding 1 working set per exercise. So I really appreciate this from a perspective of efficiency, which is something that I have really emphasized both within my training and generally recently. I think there are other benefits as well, one being an increase in quality of the volume you do. Now note that throughout the rest of the video, and indeed generally, if you're watching a video of mine, if you're reading something that I wrote on Facebook, etc., when I say volume, I mean roughly number of hard working sets, and I can expand upon that in another video. It's not within the scope of this discussion. But in decreasing the number of working sets that you do on any one exercise, I find that this mitigates, for lack of a more technical term, exercise-specific fatigue. So I do want to avoid an expansive discussion of different types of fatigue because that's also not within the scope of this video, but I can speak briefly to general or systemic whole body fatigue, which is the kind of fatigue you get from you've just done a long leg workout and you're just tired. If you even go and try to do arms, you're still tired because of systemic fatigue, even though you haven't trained your arms. You then have local fatigue. For example, you do knee extensions, aka leg extensions, and your quads are tired as a result. I have also found there to be such a thing as exercise-specific fatigue. In other words, imagine I do 4 sets of one particular type of elbow flexion, so biceps curl in other words, although you can do elbow flexion through something like an underhand pull down, but let's just say a biceps curl. If I do 4 sets of one type of biceps curl, I'll find that by the 3rd, really definitely the 4th, but perhaps even the 3rd set, the quality really degrades as I'm tired from that particular exercise. However, if I do 2 working sets of that exercise and then go do 2 working sets of another type of biceps curl, I'm able to then go and do high quality, hard working sets on that exercise. Even though local fatigue, I don't know how one would even quantify that, but local fatigue is probably going to be about the same, but that exercise specific fatigue is decreased because by the time that your set quality would start to degrade, you cut it off and go and do another exercise. So once again, that is beneficial from a perspective of efficiency because you're doing the same number of hard-working sets, but the quality of those sets is increasing. So it's beneficial from a perspective of efficacy and efficiency. Additionally, I think there are benefits, and I've alluded to additional exercise variety. I think in performing less working sets for any one exercise, you're then, all else being equal, you're then able to go and do more exercises, and there are benefits to greater exercise variety, including probably improved hypertrophy, and this is going to be context dependent, but to give an example, if you're used to doing during an upper body workout, if you're used to doing 4 working sets of bench, and that's the extent of what you do for chest, and again, this is a hypothetical, I know that there are going to be people who don't do this, but using it as an example, you do 4 working sets of bench. If you start doing 2 working sets of bench, and then 2 working sets of an incline press, I think it's likely the case that that will result in greater stimulation of the upper fibers of the pec. Now, what I can't say with great confidence is that would definitely result in greater upper pecs hypertrophy. I don't feel that I've seen sufficiently strong evidence indicating that, but I think given the available evidence, that's probably the case. And once again, you're doing the same number of working sets, but in splitting that up over 2 or more exercises, I think given the same number of working sets, hypertrophy is likely to be greater. Additionally, I think this can mitigate the risk of overuse injury in that, quite simply, you're able to stimulate the targeted muscle, and I'm coming at this from the perspective of hypertrophy training because that's what I favor. You're able to stimulate the muscle with the same number of working sets, but you're able to distribute that over different movement patterns. Even if they're very similar movement patterns, they're still different, and I think in doing that, that can decrease risk of overuse injury. Additionally, I think this can be beneficial from a perspective of psychology. I would acknowledge this could go either way. I know that there are people who thrive off of simplicity, but in my experience, it's more often the case that folks thrive off of greater variety. So as an example, if you have, once again, you have the person doing the 4 working sets of bench, they might just get bored by the 3rd or 4th sets and not apply themselves in the same way. And yes, there's absolutely something to be said for simply having a good work ethic and being able to override that, but I think there's also something to be said for, okay, you're just enjoying it less, so why not make the change, particularly given these benefits that are there regardless of psychology. Let's go in and increase exercise variety so as to make your training more fun, and I think it's likely someone will apply themselves more in that context. That's all that's coming to mind at the moment. So this is a really awkward end to this video, but the video is much shorter than my recent one, so hopefully folks appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you found value in it. Share it with someone who you think might benefit from it. And question of the day, because I want to get back to this. How many working sets do you typically do per exercise, and why do you favor that number? And might you change that in light of some of the discussion I've had here, and if so, which of the points I presented do you personally find most compelling? So thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time, but let me give you a bicep shot first.